Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my November 2019 horoscope report for you. This month we have double the sweet aspects compared to the salty ones, and when that happens, it sets a mood for the general transits that's harmonious and happy. And we have Mercury retrograde, and Mercury in retrograde brings things from the past back into the forefront. So when we have the combination of sweetness in the stars and Mercury retrograde, it tends to bring sweet things from the past, happiness from the past, projects from the past, and even work that was done in the past coming to fruition or outcomes coming in a wonderful way. So we have all of that as an increased possibility in store. The mood of the month is very much still dominated by Scorpio because most of the personal planets are putting their energy through that filter, and that means it's a lot of emotional intensity. So it's definitely an emotional month, but it's definitely a good sign that there are more sweet aspects because the chance for breakthroughs are much more likely when that happens. We have Sag energy starting to dribble in, and so Sagittarius tends to show us the light at the end of the tunnel, especially when it's happening amidst this emotional time. So if you've been moving through an emotional tunnel, the Sag light at the end will start to become more apparent, and towards the end of the month that will get stronger and set us up for the Sagittarius party that is going to happen in December. So the mood will definitely start to lighten throughout the month. Something else huge that we have going on is one of my favorite aspects of the whole year, which is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. So we're going to talk about what that can bring in general, and we're also going to zero in on your personal chart to see what field of experience that's going to occur, so you know where extra goodies can be from that aspect. I'll also share that date. I'm going to share with you all of the dates that are challenging, all of the dates that are sweet, so that you can mark them in your calendar. Also, we have eclipse rumblings. The eclipses are going to start showing up in big ways. December and January, we have eclipses, but we can often see manifestations, news, trajectory changes from the eclipses at least 4 to 6 weeks before they occur. That's why I always talk about them early, because here in November, we are very likely to see things coming in from that December eclipse. So I'm going to give you more information about that, a lot of information about the eclipse cycle so you can understand it for your patterns and your storylines. And I'll also, again, zero in on where exactly, what field of experience in your chart you will see this eclipse manifest and what kinds of things I've tended to see go along with that. I'm an astrology teacher, so I always use the charts to show you why things may happen instead of just what may happen. So if you want to learn, you're definitely in store for a wonderful learning experience. You can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, to see many more free blogs. I also have tons of other resources on there, including signing up for my free email newsletter, which gets you a general transit write-up of all the dates, all the aspects that are notable, and what you can expect from them 1 month early in your inbox. And if you love how I teach and you want to learn, you can see my astrology apprenticeship program at anniehelpsyou.com, as well as my other offerings. And definitely check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, a wonderful spiritual companion for anyone who's seeking and who wants to create the life of their dreams. So you can go to radicalprayerbook.com. So let's see what the stars have in store for you. Hello, Scorpio friends. I'm going to give you lots of information that will be true for all early, middle, and late Scorpio degree placements, but I am also going to drill down and talk about some things specific for each of the areas of the spectrum. So we want to make sure you know where you're at. Early degree, pretty much are October born, or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle, around November 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And late, around November 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. So if your sun is in Scorpio, your moon is in Scorpio, your rising is in Scorpio, this report is for you equally. Because the sun chart, the moon chart, and the rising chart, are also called the birth chart, are all windows out of the window of our experience. And they show us things that are going on that may be different from the other things, but they're true at the same time. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is birthdays. All right, we're going to use the middle degree chart, but I'm going to be talking about, well, actually, we're going to use the early degree chart, but what I'm going to be talking about is true for all placements. Okay, So all of these planets are archetypal energies. They are representing different areas of our lives. And the sun has the energy of desire. So when the sun in the sky gets back to the same point it was at in your chart when you were born, that's your solar return, that's your birthday time, then this portal for desires is open. That's where birthday wishes came from. Birthday wishes are astrological. So brilliant astrologer Jan Spiller says we get 10 birthday wishes, not just one. And I always recommend writing them down, saying them out loud, and the most important part, feeling them as if they have already come true. So that you can get your subconscious mind on the wagon of what you're trying to create through feeling your way through. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about, and again, I'm using the early chart, but these things I'm talking about at first, unless I differentiate otherwise, will be true for all of you. We still have a lot of planetary movement through Scorpio, and Mars is going to get here as well. Mercury looks like it's about to go out, 27 degrees, 29 degrees is when it would leave, but it's in retrograde from October 31st through November 20th. Those dates could be toggled depending on your different time zone, but that roundabout time. Okay, so we have a massive amount of energy in Scorpio still, which means that all of these planets at some point, the Sun, Mars, Mercury, are going to bump up against your Scorpio placement. So with each of the planets representing different energies, then when they combine with your placement, it can bring about different types of manifestations. So early degree placements, you've already had the Sun cross over your Scorpio placement as of the end of October. For the rest of you, or if even if you're watching for your moon or rising sign, so from 9 degrees on, that's when the Sun is going to be starting its movement, or where it's starting its movement from. So basically, the tail end of early placements, all middle and all of late placements are going to have the Sun kiss your Scorpio placement. And the Sun energizes, it brings life and light to, it also brings focus to. So like similar to adding lighting in a dark room, you'll be able to see colors better, everything will look different. But you can also see like cobwebs or peeling paint, things like that. So it can bring focus to areas and show you things that you need to be working on. Or it can also energize and add life to everything. Mercury brings news and information and brings into our forefront communication. So that's communication between people, that's communication devices, and that's like our general communication patterns. Mars rules our impetus and our oomph. So at the end of the month, Mars is going to start moving through Scorpio. That means you early degree placements will experience this impetus, this call to action in like the last week or so of the month. And then middle and late degree placements, you'll have this getting into December. But it's a call to action. It's, an impetus to make change, to make something happen. And the timing is good because once Mercury is direct, you can start, seeing what you're going to do with the information and the opportunities that came to you in this month. And so remember, we do have this month 12 beautiful aspects and 6 challenging ones. And at the end of this report, I will talk about these placements. I will give you the dates of the sweet aspects, the dates of the challenging aspects, and tell you some more about the general transits. But just in general, it's a very sweet month. So there are going to be lots of opportunities that come in, and you can capitalize on some of those actually in the retrograde. But because information might not be clear, because things might seem like a little dicey as far as planning, it might not be until the end of the month or into December that you can actually clearly take action. So that's going to sync up nicely for when Mars is there because you're going to be feeling really, really ready to do something. We do have the energy of Sagittarius drizzling in throughout the month. And in general, the energy of Sag doesn't flow as well with Scorpio because they're so different. But what I do see Sag energy doing in general is kind of lightening the mood, giving some breath to and what I mean breath, like breadth, like some wideness rather than, like the deep internal focus. The Sag focus kind of will help you look at the bigger picture instead of the minutia. So that's going to be drizzling in, and that's going to get stronger even towards the end of the month. And so that's going to, I think, be helpful to have a break from the emotional energies that have been really, really the main stage focus for October and November. If it is your birthday, because you're watching for your son, then definitely watch my video, Making Wishes Come True, using astrological paraparrots. So basically, if you search for Annie, Making Wishes Come True, I go into more details about how to use this magical time when the sun and all of these energies are really enhancing your placements. The second thing most on my mind this month is my favorite aspect, it's actually just one of my favorite aspects for the whole year. It's the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. Venus rules love, beauty, money, aesthetics. So November 24th, or the days around there, could be a little different depending on your time zone, and also sometimes we feel this a few days before or a few days after. But this is going to happen when Venus and Jupiter get to 28 degrees of Sag. So I want to talk about what that can bring for everybody and where in the chart that is for all of you so that you can see where you might get some extra boosts, goodies. So in general, since Venus rules love, beauty, and money and aesthetics, Jupiter rules expansion. Sag is in this super, this super optimistic, expanded energy, benevolent and light. So good money news. Good news in love, good news on design projects, anything like that are likely for all the signs. But where this is going to be focused for all early, middle, and late degree placements is actually the second house. And the second house is a house that is ruled by Venus. It's the energy of money and the energy of income and the energy of self-sufficiency. So if you've been trying to get more self-sufficiency or looking for some money news or good news in love, then it's possible that this aspect can bring things along for you. Now, it's very important that you hear, and I know some of you aren't going to hear me, but what can I do? I try, right? It's important to hear that astrology transits bring potentials, but we are energetically responsible for our own fields and manifestations. And if you're not a vibrational match for good news in love or good news in money or something like that, then you're not going to get it, no matter how beautiful this potential is. If you have a money paradigm that is not one that will allow you to receive or maintain blessings like this, then you're not going to have it. So, it's good to watch these potentials as they go by, and if you notice consistently that you're not having them manifest for you, then that's a cue to you that you have to do some inner work to get your inner realms a match for the things that you want in the outer realms, so that when these transits come and instigate or increase the likelihood of something, you can more easily draw from the ethers the types of manifestations that you want. But in general, this time can, besides the money and the love and all that, it can be just a time for luck. Jupiter rules luck. And when it comes together with Venus, I remember one time during this aspect, I was going somewhere with my family, and it was somewhere I hadn't been in over, I don't want to tell you, it had been decades. And we just had this amazing stroke of luck where this person randomly gave us free tickets, and when we were at this venue, this historic thing occurred while we were witnessing it, and it was just really magical. And that's kind of typical of this energy of Jupiter coming together with Venus. So just kind of keep that in mind and look out for that. Venus can rule self-esteem, and the second house can also be part of the energy of how we value ourselves. So maybe like a raise or a breakthrough with charging more for your services, or anything having to do with how you value yourself, or learning things or doing work to create a really strong grounding for your self-esteem, which relates to how much you can receive for your services and being acknowledged and appreciated for them. So this second house is really lighting up for you all in big ways. And that leads me to the third thing that I want to talk about, which is these eclipses. So I'm going to show you where in the chart this eclipse, we're at the second to last series of eclipses for the Cancer Capricorn sequence. I have recorded a special segment on understanding where we're at with the eclipses, what eclipses can do, why they're important. We do tend to see manifestations of eclipses 4 to 6 weeks before, which is why I'm talking about this eclipse, even though it's not going to be until around December 25th or 26th, depending on your time zone, because in the 4 to 6 weeks before then, which puts us in a good bit of November, you can start seeing results, manifestations, things like that. So the solar eclipse is at 4 degrees of Capricorn. If you're an early degree placement, this can give you even extra blessings for your Scorpio placement, because it's at a friendly angle for Scorpio, so that's good for all Scorpio placements. And it's especially good if you are anywhere from 0 to 9 degrees of Scorpio, and the closer you are to 4 degrees, the more intense it could be. Okay, so early degree placements do have a chance to see this in the second house, although you may also see it in the third house. Middle degree placements, very clearly in the second house. And late degree placements, also very clearly in the second house. Okay, so the summary is that the eclipse that's happening in December, that you may start feeling in November, is going to highlight this money sector for all early, middle, and late degree Scorpio placements. And for the early degree placements, you may have extra intensity from it, but that might be a good thing because of the angle, or it's more likely to be a good thing. And also, if you're an early degree placement, it could manifest in the third house. So I'm going to do, I'm going to drop in the lesson on the eclipse cycle. Then I'm going to drop in a very detailed explanation of the ways that I've seen eclipses in the second house manifest. And then that's for all of you. And then if you're an early degree, then stay tuned for the one after the second degree or the second house drop in. And I'll go into lots of details about the third house manifestations of eclipses and what that looks like. Then after that, I will talk more about the general transits, including this very rare transit of Mercury. And I'll give you all the sweet aspects, dates, and the challenging aspect dates so that you can note them in your calendar. Okay, so here is my overview for the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycles. It's always helpful when we're having an astrological cycle that is relevant at the current time to think back to when it happened before, and also to just kind of understand when it's going to happen again in the future. So the last time the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle occurred was between 2009 and 2011. And the next time it will happen after now, because we're in it now, is between 2027 and 2029. So what I have here, I'm going to give you a quick overview and timeline of this cycle and show you what we still have left to kind of understand the timeline. The reason why it's important to understand these dates is because there is a storyline that is taking place over the time from the beginning of the eclipse cycle till the end. And the themes were introduced around the time, sometimes a little early, before, so around July of 2018 or a little bit sooner. The themes that came up, that are going to come up and be present this whole time, started to come up. And then at the end of the cycle, many of the things will have resolved or shifted or come to a conclusion, or whatever that turns out to look like. The reason why I spend so much time and energy in the reports where the eclipse energies are more present is because they tend to bring drama. dramatic conclusions, amazing, brilliant new openings, a shuffling around of energy in a very intense, notable way with major trajectory shifts. And because of this, usually at that period of time, things are going on and people are looking around and saying, what the heck is going on? You know, people around me are going through these massive changes. I'm going through changes, or sometimes you're a space holder for someone else going through changes and not the one having them. But it's like there's something that seems like it's, you know, in the air, and it literally is in the sky, and it is literally down into our experience. So there's this massive shuffling around of energy. So that law that says matter is not created nor destroyed, or can't be created or nor destroyed, it simply changes form, is very much evident at eclipse time. So things will be taken away from a certain area, so they'll be eclipsed out, and then energy will be added in to a new area where these new openings will come as things are crossed out. So that's the typical, just general storyline. So as we get closer, and I usually use 4 to 6 weeks before and after each actual eclipse date as the hot spot, I call it, for the eclipse news. But anything related to any of the themes that are going on for this eclipse cycle can happen during any of this time. It doesn't have to be only right near the hot spots, but the odds are greatly increased that news, events, changes, breakthroughs, openings, closes will occur as we're closer to these dates, and that's why they're important. Okay, so July 2nd, 2018, then January 5th, 2019, and then the most recent ones before now were July 2nd and July 16th. If you want to go back to understand those eclipses and try to make more sense of things that occurred then, you can find the information about what house, meaning field of experience for your sign, the eclipses hit for, okay? So basically, the Cancer Capricorn polarity brings tendencies for certain changes to all signs, and they would have to do with the energy of Cancer and the energy of Capricorn. So every sign has had an increased chance of a lot of shuffling around, notable changes, drama, conclusions, new beginnings in the house of home and family, and in the energy of work and your place out in the world, and the dynamic and push and pull between those places, and energies of mother and father and parenting and maternal energy and paternal energy and your inner authority, your outer authority. Every sign has been having storylines from this eclipse cycle in those polarities. But when it's eclipse time, I also drill down into the houses that they occur for each sign. And that gets even more specific about how it affects you when you were born, what your rising sign is, what your moon sign is. You can look at these reports to drill it down even further. Okay, so for the July eclipse, if you look at my June report, and this is 2019, you can get more insight into that. And then for the July 16th eclipse, again, these happened already, but sometimes retrospectively going back to have understanding is helpful. You can see my July 2019 report for that. Now, bringing us to the present time, we're in the November report, and I am going to be talking about this December 25th eclipse. Depending on your time zone, that might actually happen on the 26th, but in either case, it's at 4 degrees of Capricorn. So to follow this general drop-in, I'm going to show you where in your personal charts this eclipse is going to hit and what things you can expect with that. Then probably the December report I'll devote to talking about Jupiter moving into Capricorn. There is a chance I might talk about the January of 2020 eclipse in the December report, but I'm not sure yet. So, check out the December, and then definitely know by the January report, I will be telling you where this January 10th eclipse will be hitting for you. And then the last eclipse has happened. So you see I have these kind of grouped this way because this is one set, and then this is the last set here, in June and July of 2020. So those dates will end out this whole cycle, and things that began here will be getting wrapped up, moving along. And so you can kind of understand that where we're at. So the story in many cases is not done yet. You know, maybe there will be some kind of conclusion or final chapter that occurs, and then maybe, you know, these ones here are the integration time or follow-up things or something like that. But for the most part, we're in a storyline that's still in process. And regardless of the finality or the occurrences that happen at this time, probably we're going to need until the end of this cycle in order for us to see the conclusion of the story that we are almost done with. So now I'm going to show you the charts of your particular sign and show you what houses or fields of experience this December 25th, 26th eclipse is going to occur, and what themes specifically you can expect with that. Eclipses often bring radical changes, major news, major trajectory shifts, sudden accomplishments, sudden things getting eclipsed out, other things getting eclipsed in, things coming to fruition. And when there's an eclipse in the second house or Taurus, these are the areas that I see most highlighted with these storylines. One of the big ones is finances. So there are many different facets of finance. Someone could have a big breakthrough in how they're doing their budgeting. So, you know, and sometimes this is forced from the outside, and sometimes it's instigated from the inside. So a sudden realization that something has to be changed. I've also seen eclipse in second house or Taurus bring about major purchases. Now, it's always important to take this information about eclipses and also factor in what else is happening at the time, because if an eclipse is in a personal planet retrograde, you know, recommendations for whether to make major purchases, you know, may be shifted depending on certain time frames. But in general, in an eclipse season, I often see major purchases made, you know, a home, a boat, a luxury item, or a sustainability item, you know, solar, adding solar, something that's a major purchase that will enrich your life in some way, often comes through. I've seen, you know, major jewelry purchases, you know, something that has some significance to the person from a material perspective, often comes through with these eclipses. I've seen new sources of income. This is one of the major things that I see in these eclipse in second house or Taurus cycles, is a new way of making money, a new source of income, a raise, you know, something different or additional about money. Also, sometimes a source of money can be eclipsed out, you know, so depending on the energy, but changes in how you make money, changes in sources of income. Sustainability topics. So this has to do again with the finances, like questions about sustainability, things coming to a head. Maybe they've been unsustainable and they spiral out of control in the eclipse time. Maybe you have a great breakthrough and you pay off debt and get current in the eclipse time. Something having to do with living sustainably from the financial perspective. An increase in savings, like a bunch of money come in or a bunch of money go out. Something having to do again with you know, anything in the financial sector. I've seen things having to do with the environment and the earth. So earth projects, you know, getting your hands dirty, building projects. Again, sustainability as it relates to the environment, your imprint, questions about your imprint, or, you know, something having to do with changing the environment around you, building or creating. The energy of security comes up quite a bit. So emotional security, financial security. So a lot of times there are major occurrences on the topic of security. So again, that can be like a zap to the security where something shifts and you're feeling less secure, or something happens that solidifies that feeling of security. And all of this can also have to do with, you know, even steps that one takes to be more financially certain in the future. So putting things together that will affect this sector at some point. And also inner work having to do with self-esteem based on making more money. So, you know, again, raises or the awareness of one's own value that can shift what they call in as far as their income. This energy of sustainability can have to do with the financial sector, but is also, very holistic. So the quest to be emotionally sustainable, financially sustainable, where someone can do things on their own. So not just sustainable as it relates to the world, but also sustainable as it relates to the individual's ability to stand on their own feet. So being able to rely on inner resources sometimes, even rather than having to have someone else or outside resources. So like a remembering of inner resources and a development of your own inner resources. I often see these the eclipse cycles that have to do with second house and Taurus have to do with starting a business. And again, you could see the relationship here between sustainability, but I have seen it in a manifestation where somebody starts a business, somebody ends a business, somebody opens a new chapter within a business, somebody closes a chapter within a business, so the closing or opening of chapters or the closing and opening of whole projects can follow the eclipse cycles or eclipse placements in this house. And that does, again, lead back to this energy of sustainability, because when one has their own business, there's a different level of sustainability than, kind of just making everything happen themselves and developing the way by which their finances will improve, kind of taking the financial picture by the reins and feeling back more in control or more in a directive role in the financial sector. And often that does have to do with having one's own business. Sometimes I've seen this where people start businesses on the side of their regular businesses, and sometimes I've seen this eclipse manifestation be where this is the time when their business takes flight or they kind of jump all in. Eclipses bring major changes, major news, and major events. And although sometimes we observe other people having the changes and we're holding space for them, very often we are the ones that are having the changes when the eclipses occur in these certain placements. When there's an eclipse in the third house or Gemini, one of the sectors of life that is very much brought into the forefront is communication. So this can be interpersonal communication, the way that you relate to others, your communication style. I very often will talk on this topic about how our nervous system has been imprinted with the tones, with the things said and not said by our parents or primary, child rearers that get laced into our way of talking. And so going deeper into how, in many cases, violence is just imprinted into our language, whether it's passive aggressive or, if a parent is stressed and it goes into the speech and the kid gets imprinted with it, then it rolls into our communication style. So in-depth opportunities to look at how we're communicating. And again, this comes up at this time, but it has to do a lot of times with how we experience someone else. So if we think they're being harsh or they're not being fair or they're being, in a certain way, sometimes those things can serve as reflectors for us at this time about our own personal communication patterns. And the more we can own that, if we're having communication issues with other people, that we can own our part of it and where it came from and how we're attracting it in, the more we can use the opportunity that comes at this time with the eclipse cycle. So interpersonal communications, I always like to recommend the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, where he outlines this, plus a plan to shift it. I really love his work because he gets people together that are basically warring with each other, sometimes very seriously warring with each other, gets them in the same room, teaches them this communication system in order to help people get better outcomes to reach common goals with their communication. So that's a big one that I see. Devices are another part of this. So, issues with devices, dropping phones in toilets, having new devices, having to have them or choosing to upgrade, or any kind of change with communication. Anything having to do with systems, your system of communication with people. So how, email, ways that you go texting, ways that you go about communicating. So notable things occurring there, or changing how you relate to those particular ways. Something else that comes up a lot with third house eclipses and Gemini eclipses is transportation and mobility. So the modes of transportation, issues with a car or other vehicle, getting new ones. And again, I always talk about this. Eclipses often bring in new devices or transportation pieces, but definitely also pay attention to the time that it's occurring. So, if it's a personal planet retrograde, which I speak to more in the horoscopes, it may not be the time to voluntarily make a purchase, but if you can just, watch the general transits as they relate to the eclipse season and time your purchases if possible, that can be helpful. But in general, this topic will come up. It's a time to not ignore when your car is doing something weird. That's the bottom line. It's a time to make a pledge to not text and drive, and remember that before we could text and drive, we didn't. So therefore we still can manage to get from place to place without texting or even talking on the phone, anything that can interfere with the driving, because this energy can increase the energy of accidents. And so even if you're walking or biking, avoiding being distracted while those things are happening, look to, be extra careful with your physical body as it relates to other people moving and you moving around. This energy also has to do with physical mobility. So if there's been an injury, sometimes there's an injury from the eclipse or related to the eclipse, or sometimes there's a healing moving along a continuum of regaining mobility, a different chapter of mobility. Writing and editing and some different aspects of your expression can come up at this time. So writing projects and opportunities. Also, relatives that aren't parents or kids are related to the third house in Gemini. So cousins, siblings, aunts, uncles, things like that are in this house. So notable connections with these people or opportunities or progress along a continuum can often come in as a third house eclipse chapter. Gemini can also relate to social settings and some aspect of, relating in a social scene. So notable interactions in the social scene can also come up at this time. So a quick summary of some of the ways to best use this energy is to respond to the things that occur. So if there's a symptom, if something's going on, look into it. Pay attention to the opportunities that come and take them seriously. And follow your hunches in these areas. Make a promise to yourself for accountability. So, ask yourself how you are the common denominator in your interactions, and do whatever is relevant to the situation to own your part and to work with your part of the dynamic. Pay extra special attention as you're moving around and have much extra care and extra focus. And be prepared to blow the dust off of old writing projects or start new writing projects or get down into the cleaning up of communications or other writing projects that have already been in process. Okay, so I'm going to give you the visuals on the general transits that will affect all signs for November 2019. And definitely remember that what I'm giving you here is a summary of some of the things to watch out for. If you want a more complete written list of the general transits that are most notable and the energies and potentials that go along with them delivered into your inbox 1 month early, then definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com. And at AnnieHelpsYou.com, you can sign up for my free email newsletter. Annie Helps You, that's supposed to say YOU. It's not legible. Then you sign up for my free email newsletter, and I will send you a written report about this general transit energy a month beforehand so that you have it for your planning purposes and you have it, as a visual. Okay, so like I mentioned, the first thing to know about this month is that there are around 12 awesome aspects and around 6 more challenging ones. So whenever we have a month where there's like double the nice ones compared to the challenging ones, then it sets a tone for the month that is super sweet. Now, as I always give this disclaimer, I will give it again. The general transits are just that. They're general. They're happening. This is one layer of absolute truth that is occurring for everyone. But your personal chart, the way the planets are hitting in your actual chart, which we can't see a lot of that. We can see the sun sign, the rising sign in the horoscopes, but there are all these planets here in your chart. And the way that the current planetary arrangements are hitting all of those planets for you could cause you to have a different experience than is the general theme or mood, okay? But now back to, speaking about this general mood, it's super sweet because we have so much more of this sweet aspect energy. The second very important thing to remember, and we'll look at this in the chart, is that Mercury is going retrograde. I talked in detail about Mercury retrograde in October because I always talk about things early because we feel them happening early. So between October 31st or November 1st, depending on your time zone, Mercury is actually going to start its retrograde process. On October 12th, it started its pre-shadow or its pre-transit shadow period. So every day from October 12th through the 31st, we were going deeper into the energies of Mercury retrograde, which is why I talked about them in the October reports. But now, on these days, it's actually occurring. Okay, so this Mercury is going to go back. Now, again, you see this, we're not looking at, we're looking at not the house configurations for this chart because we're not looking at a certain sign. We're just looking at the mathematical relationships between the planets. So this reading is for everybody. So Mercury is going to go back from 27 degrees of Scorpio back to 11 degrees of Scorpio. And so if you have any placements that are between 27 and 11 degrees, that especially in mathematical, connection to Scorpio, then is going to be more intense for you. And I did talk about more of those details in the October reports for all signs, but just to kind of, have a guideline here. Since it stays retrograde until November 20th, the whole mood of the month has to do with things from the past. Now, some new things can pop through, but there's going to be this strong theme of energies from the past. So I'm calling it sweetness from the past because there's so much sweetness and the energy is tilted, backwards. Now, we also talked about the fact that there are eclipse rumblings, and there are because as early as November, you may start to see some eclipse news come in. But you can definitely look to the sign reports, individual sign reports for November to see where they're going to hit for each of your signs and also have an overview of this eclipse cycle. The days of the sweet aspects. Okay, so we'll put our big smiley face here. Okay, so November 3rd, 8th, 9th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 23rd, 24th, 26th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. Sometimes the energies from the transits that happen on a certain day can be felt before or after that day. So don't hang your hat too closely to the exact day, but just kind of know that there's a lot of sweetness around the days here. The challenging ones are on the 5th, 11th, 14th, 20th, 24th, and 26th. You notice how sometimes the same day will have either an aspect that could go either way or multiple aspects, one that could be sweet and one that could be salty. We see that happening actually on the 24th too, and also on the 11th. The 24th of November is one of my favorite days of the whole year because it is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. And this is very potentially expansive to love, self-esteem, money, blessings, luck, just amazing things coming out of the blue. In this case, since the energies are in Sagittarius, which is, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, so there's some extra energy of Sag in this storyline. There's even potential for more luck since Sagittarius rules good luck and expansion and things involving education and publishing and traveling and learning and teaching and spiritual evolution. So definitely put a nice big star in the days around here. Now, do remember, of course, like we talked about, there is also a salty aspect on the 24th and 26th. So those things could also be happening, but this is still a pretty powerful aspect to note. Something else really important to note as well is November 11th. November 11th has an aspect that day. The sun in Scorpio is conjunct Mercury. Okay, so then that day, this and this will get together and amplify each other's energy, bringing potential intensity for better or worse. But occurring on that same day is a very rare transit of Mercury. Okay, so this only happens around 13 times in a century. And the next times they'll happen will be 2032 and 2039. For your reference to think back, if there was anything notable that occurred for you, the last time this happened was May 9th, 2016. It also happened November 8th, 2006, May 7th, 2003, November 15th, 1999. So sometimes it's really helpful to be able to go back and see if periods of time had something noteworthy for you, because sometimes that can help you better understand how the energy may manifest. So basically with the transit of Mercury, for a short time with a telescope, you can actually see Mercury, tiny, very tiny, crossing over the path of the sun. So that's a pretty cool astronomical occurrence, but it also turns out to be energetically a very cool astrological occurrence. And so, it just can add to the intensity. Mercury rules news and travel and communication and devices for that. So breakthroughs in communication, really big news, really big physical shifts, things like that could be prominent at this time. Okay, so those are the things most on my mind, just to give you a summary of this month of the general transits. Definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com, because you can see more about what I do in that newsletter is all of these dates that I list. I tell you what the aspect is and what kinds of energies tend to go along with them. So I have these all itemized out. Okay, also if you want more information about the month, I do also do written horoscopes at cozybysweetstarlight.com. And they're often talking about different things than I talk about in the videos. Okay, so Cozy by Sweet, this is all one URL, starlight.com. You can get monthly horoscopes, again, around a month early on there to get more information, and you can go to anniehelpsyou.com in order to get more blogs. And actually on Cozy, there are also lots of other astrology blogs, astrology for wellness blogs, and other positive lifestyle blogs. And at anniehelpsyou.com, I have lots of astrology blogs for the full moon, for the new moon. So I put together lots of things for you to be able to make the most of the energetic potentials. Definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com to check out all of my free blogs. You can also check out my Astrology Basics and Beyond course if you want to learn the basics of astrology. If you want to go into an insane amount of in-depth astrology wonder, then you can check out my Astrology Apprenticeship program that can teach you how to use astrology for anything from self-development, helping yourself, helping your friends and family, to being a professional astrologer full on. I can help you with that. You can check my course out at anniehelpsyou.com. I also have a coach certification course. I also have a Creating Successful Online Business course that teaches you how to create an online presence and funnel that presence into your paid services so that you can roam free as a bird like I am. You can see I'm in a random place recording because I'm traveling and trying to get these recordings done for you. So you can see all of that at anniehelpsyou.com. Definitely check out my husband, B.R. Newman's site, iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com. He is going to soon have a tarot companion guide, an astrology companion guide that serve as your helpers in your study process as well, plus other cool offerings that he has there and a lot of free stuff as well. Go to see my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. It has become a beloved bedside companion and purse and card-toting companion to my fellow spiritual seekers, so I have heard. So you can see that at radicalprayerbook.com. If you love my shirt, this was sent to me by an amazing woman, with an artist with a beautiful story. And she creates these awesome astrology design garments and all kinds of other designs as well. So you can see her story. These are also all hand stitched by adults in Canada. So you can check that out in the notes below this video. So when you click on the ... or more, all of my websites will be there. The link to see more about these designs will be there. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.